somewhere behind me, approaching very quickly indeed, is a Bugatti Mistral being driven by Andy Wallace, going for the new world convertible top speed record. Right, so here's the setup. We're at Papenburg, a test track in northern Germany, because Bugatti doesn't have permission to use the old Aerolesian test track anymore. And there's no point in doing a massive speed if you haven't recorded it to share it with the world. So that's what we are going to do today. We're going to take you behind the scenes and show you how Bugatti's crew is going to, well, save the history. They've got a great big film crew, they've got some very fast tracking cars, and somewhere out there in the gloom, there's even a helicopter. So definitely got all the kit. Cameras tightly rigged, including the one on Andy's helmet.
Should anything happen, we don't want a massive protrusion anywhere on the face of the helmet.
Meanwhile, this Arri Alexa camera being hung on the RS6 chase car is worth about the same money as the 560 horsepower Audi. And for an extra challenge, the helicopter only had 90 minutes of flight time. No pressure. Unfortunately, sometimes even an RS6 isn't quick enough. So luckily, Bugatti's come prepared, brought along another tracking car just in case. It's this. They've strapped a drone camera to the back of a 1600 horsepower Chiron Super Sport and tucked it mostly out the airflow, so you can have the world's fastest car tracking the world's fastest convertible. Once the engineers gave the car the green light, experts from Michelin had approved the tyres, and Andy had been briefed, it was time for an attempt. Conditions were not ideal. This was early November. Though there wasn't a breath of wind, the 6 Celsius ambient temperature and high humidity meant the car had to fight through denser air at top speed, losing the advantage in turbo efficiency that cooler weather normally gives you. Okay, Andy's just back from his speed run. That was 451 kph, which in old money is 280 miles an hour, and it was spitting with rain. Apparently the car might just have a little bit more in it, but because it's so cold today, the air is too dense for the car to be able to punch through it any faster. But still, 280 in the drizzle, what a run. It seems that 281 miles an hour, or 452 kph, would be the final score, but Andy gave it one more lap and managed to eke out a tiny bit more speed, hitting a verified Vmax of 453.91 kilometers an hour, or 282.04 miles an hour. And the engineers were pretty pleased with that. Straight after his heroics in the Mistral, Andy gave us his first reactions. Well, Andy, congratulations. King of speed again for Bugatti. Well done. You didn't pick the best day for it. What kind of challenge does the weather bring when it's this cold?
Well, thanks, Ollie. Actually, I didn't choose the day, and I don't know why you try and do it in November. Because actually, during the runs, there's little tiny bits of, I guess it's not rain, but it's moisture on the screen, and it's building up, and you think, I wonder how much grip there is.
You didn't have the wipers on, did you?
I didn't have the wipers on, no.
Good.
I think at that speed they might fly off the back, although I'm sure being a Bugatti it's been tested.
They've engineered that, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so when you're out there and you're doing this huge speed, they're just changing the tyres behind us, 281.8 miles an hour?
I just saw the sheet now, it's 282 on the sheet.
So, fantastic. Yeah. How much buffeting is there inside the car? It must be like an absolute tornado in there.
Well, the thing is, you'd expect that, wouldn't you? But because it's a Bugatti, right? Honestly, my helmet's not even moving.
Really?
I mean, there is not a lot of air coming in. What you do have is a lot of noise from the air. You know, when you cut the roof off a car, which is not, of course, what happened, it's designed from the ground up, but when you don't have a roof, you hear the air ripping off the top of the windscreen and it's going around behind you, but there's no buffeting. And I was really surprised. I did some runs without a helmet on at, say, 300 Ks, just to see, nothing. I mean, I was going to say my hair wasn't blowing, but obviously I don't have a lot, but, you know, there's no air. You know, it's amazing. It's really amazing.
I thought it would be deafening, but it's actually not too bad.
The noise-wise, it's getting close. At that speed, it's getting close to deafening. I probably should have put some earplugs in, but it's just the fact. The other thing too, no vibration. You're going along, all the wheels are whizzing around, everything's coming past you, and there's not a hint of vibration on the wheel or anything. It's incredible.
Fair play to the engineers, as always. I heard you saying earlier that when you come under the bridge, kind of the access road bridge that you use to get into the test track, that messes up the aero of the car. What's going on there?
Yeah, and the bridge, it's quite a wide bridge. It goes across the track and it's fairly low. It looks like it. It's one of those things, you know, sometimes when you get on the Channel Tunnel and they've got those things that you have to pass under.
Oh yeah, and you always duck, don't you?
Exactly.
Isn't it? What's that going to do?
Yeah, it's not quite that low, but it kind of looks at it at that speed. So I'm coming under there at 427 kilometres an hour. This is well over 200 miles an hour. And as soon as you get under, and I know it's going to happen now, so you're ready, and it kind of just moves the car over. So I guess there's an interaction between all the air that's going on. I'm also not using the lane right close to the barrier on the left, because there's an interaction there and you get some instability. So I'm using one lane in. So you've got all these things going on, but I've done it quite a few times now, and as long as you're ready for these things happening. If there was no bridge, I mean, at that speed, it would be, you could probably drive it like this. Yeah. But and then as the speed builds, it's...
And the last thing I wanted to ask was, obviously, when you did 304.7724,
good man,
I remembered it, you did that Aerolesian, the old Volkswagen test track. That's a considerably longer track. So here, I think it's like a 12K lap, but there's only 4 kilometres straight, something like that, isn't it? So can you just talk a bit about the challenges of getting the car up to this massive speed, but in a much shorter zone?
Yeah, well, this is the issue you've got, as you say. So it was 8.8 Ks or 5.5 miles in error. The banking's not quite as steep. Here you've got slightly steeper banking, but as you say, 4 kilometres, 2.5 miles, and you need a good bit to get the speed off. Having said that, the air brake and just the drag of the car in generally meant that I could brake quite a lot later in this. I know I'm going a bit slower than 304, but so you need a little bit less. But still, you have to come off the banking pretty quick.
Yeah, what speed are you coming off the corner at?
Wow. I mean,
what speed are you allowed to say?
Yeah, ideally 250 Ks is the maximum on the banking.
Right.
So I was actually going into it about 220. There's no point in going faster than you need to, the load that you're putting into the tyres. And then as you can see the exit, I'm building up to 250, and then to be honest, I went quite early. So it's coming off there. It's definitely more than 300 for sure. Okay, so and then you just pin it, and you know, as you come off the banking, as the road goes flat, it sucks the car towards the left. So you've got to be really careful that you don't touch a barrier. And then I go one lane across. It's pinned, and then it's quite an incredible feeling, because even though you're going 300, you still have serious acceleration. I mean, you can really feel it, and all the numbers are clicking around. But then, you know, you get 2/3 of the way down the straight and the numbers are still clicking, but they're clicking a bit slower, and you're willing them to come on more and more and more. But I would say that's a pretty decent speed, 282 without a roof.
I mean, it's phenomenal, but is it always the case that with a longer straight it would have kept on going, or is that the max it would have ever got?
It was a little bit like era, you know, at 304.7724, it was still climbing. I don't know how much more it would go. That's the thing, because obviously the drag's coming on as a square of the speed, and so eventually you will hit the drag wall. I don't think in this case, or in the case of the 300 plus, we weren't at VMAX, but we were pretty close, I would say.
We'll call it done. I mean, I have to say, as someone who's watched the McLaren F1 record on YouTube, the Bugatti records on YouTube, to finally be here and watch you do the business in person, it's been an absolute privilege. So congratulations once again. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ollie. Cheers, mate.
Next, I wanted to hear from Bugatti CEO Mate Rimac how this record attempt was born. Mate, congratulations, another day at the office for you, another record smashed, 282 miles an hour. Can you just tell us a little bit about how this project came about? Because we kind of didn't expect the Mistral to set a record.
Well, actually, the customer came up with the idea, or the customer's son, like at the Goodwood Festival Speed, where else he said that they had already, you know, the world record editions of the Veyron, of the Chiron, and wouldn't it be great to have world record edition of the Mistral? And we were then thinking about it, yeah, why not? Like, we didn't think about it before. So we really listened to our customers, and he made a suggestion, why don't we make an edition? And we were like, why don't we just make one special for you, because it's so important to you, and that's what we did.
So how do you deal with all the customers. When they find out there's only one of these, they're all surely going to come to you and say, I want one as well. How do you kind of manage that?
Yeah, well, we have this special programs that we do with our customers. So actually the cars are becoming more and more customized. So every car is actually really special. So we are currently at like €500,000 of customization per car. So every Mistral is really like very highly individualized already. But then with some customers we go another step and make something like truly unique, like in this case where it's just a one-off.
Yeah, I mean, it's a phenomenal project, and it's a great way to say goodbye to the W16 quad turbo. It feels like we've been saying goodbye to it for a while, but this is like a great swan song for it. But you've got to want to set more records. What's next now?
Well, this is the 33rd record in my life where I participated. Yeah, I set 5 world records with BMW E30 15 years ago, 16 years ago. That was how I started. And then the Nevera set 27 world records last year. And now the first one with Bugatti. But you know, I believe it's all about pushing the limits, raising the bar. And these kind of cars are for, of course, people who can afford it. People like Serge here who are great customers of ours, but I think it's also to explore what's possible. Like, you know, we have the guys from Michelin here. We are pushing the tire technology, the limits of tires higher, and you know, tires today compared to 30 years ago, they are a completely different level.
Yeah, the tires that Andy did the McLaren F1 record on to now, it's scary. But yeah, I saw you having a quiet chat with the gentleman from Michelin. I thought, are you asking for a tire that can do 500 kilometers an hour, or a tire that can go around the Nürburgring in like 2 minutes?
Yeah.
What are you asking for?
So, you know, there was exactly the discussion. Like, I figured out that the guys who are here, they're actually responsible for these kind of high performance and racing tires. And then I'm like, can you do this? Can you do that? Where's the limit? Like, one of the questions was, what's the maximum static load at 0 kilometers per hour on the front and rear axle of the Tourbillon tire? And they were like, what? Why are you asking that? So some of the very technical customers might know why I'm asking that. So it's those kind of things. And like, the question was also like, can we put a 5 in front of the top speed record maybe next? Let's see.
Someone's going to get there. You guys want to be there first, but
someone's going to do that.
We're looking forward to seeing it, but congratulations once again. Thanks for having us down here.
Thank you, man. Thanks for coming.
Cheers. Coming to the end of a rather strange day here at the Papenburg test track in northern Germany, hence the pajamas and the helmet hair. Yeah, sorry, I'm a mess. And yeah, we're losing the light. As you can see, it's going dark because it's November, the perfect time of year for a speed record. When I woke up this morning, the fastest roadster in the world was the Hennessy Venom Roadster. And now, thanks to Mr. Andy Wallace, absolutely sending this thing round Papenburg's high-speed test oval, this is the Speed King at 282 miles an hour, 453.9 kph, if you like to speak in metric. It's the undisputed fastest roadster, and probably going to stay that way for a very, very long time. But it's something else as well. It's a really clever way to say goodbye to this, the quad turbo W16, because you have a much more, and I'm going to sound like a real tool here, but intimate relationship with it. You can hear the voice, you can hear the interior machinations of it going on, the blow-off valves, you can hear the pressure building, you can hear those 16 cylinders earning their keep. So for anyone who's ever thought that, the Bugatti, it's a great numbers car, it doesn't have a huge amount of character, this, perhaps more than any of the others, really, really erases that. It's such a phenomenal piece of engineering. And I'm a very, very lucky boy because, well, the gentleman who bought this hasn't even driven it yet. The only people that have driven it have been some Bugatti engineers, Andy Wallace himself, and me. And I did 245 miles an hour
in someone else's hypercar.